Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, with our main topic today. Well, Egypt is gearing up for the inauguration ceremony of the ram-headed Sphinx's road that is going to take place in Luxor very soon and is going to attract the eyes of the whole world to the city of Luxor. To shed more light on this, we have the pleasure to host this morning in the breakfast show our dear guest, Mr. Ihab Kamel, historian and researcher. Good morning, Mr. Kamel.
Good morning.
Mr. Kamel, now we are all waiting for the inauguration ceremony of the avenue of the ram-headed Sphinxes in Luxor. So it's going to be inaugurated very soon. Could you give us an idea about this topic?
Well, we have to understand that in the ancient times, both temples were linked together.
Yes.
Of course, Thebes was the city of gods, was the religious capital of Egypt.
Both temples is the Karnak temple and the Luxor temple.
Yes,
yes.
Yes. And actually, we have to understand that these temples are located on the East Bank, which means that they are cult temples, where the cult was practiced. The ancient Egyptian ceremonies, daily rituals were practiced, different from the temples on the West Bank of Luxor. Of course, Luxor was as I said, the religious capital of Egypt. The god of Luxor was the king of gods, the god Amun-Ra, so both temples were dedicated to the god Amun-Ra. Actually, in Thebes, they had worshipped Amun-Ra as the head of the gods, but they used to worship a triad consisting of Amun-Ra, his wife the goddess Mut, and his son the god Khunsu. Both temples were linked together by an avenue. That's why they used to call the Karnak. The Karnak was the house of the god Amun, his main residence, and it was called Ipet Isut, the throne of the Ipet, referring that the throne of the god Amun was located there.
Yes.
To the south, there was the temple of Luxor, which was also dedicated to the god Amun, but it was the residence of his harem over there. Every year, there was a huge procession that took place in the river as well, from Karnak to Luxor, and on land as well. That was called the Opet Festival, when Amun-Ra, or the statue of Amun-Ra, was carried in a huge procession with the priests carrying a small model boat that contains his statue, playing the music, chanting the hymns, also burning the incense, going all the way from Karnak temple to Luxor, and that's is the place where Amun-Ra is going to stay for a few days with his harem, because at this point Amun-Ra was represented in the form of the god, or associated with the god Min, the god of fertility, to be known as Amun-Min, or Amun-Im-Opet, Amun, in the Opet festival, to spend a few days with his harem over there. That's why in the back of the pylon of Luxor temple, we had a very strange scene, the scene of the celebrations of the festival of the god Min. What was the relation? The relation was that they were both associated together. Of course, this avenue of Sphinxes, it existed since a very early age. Ramses II had started it, and each king used to come and restore it and add few more statues, either for rams, because the ram was the sacred animal of the god Amun-Ra. King Shashank in the 22nd dynasty added some of those, until the time of one of the last pharaohs who had ruled Egypt, King Nectanebo I from the 30th dynasty. Unfortunately, because of in several historical periods, the decline of the ancient Egyptian cult, the introduction of Christianity to Egypt, these temples were abandoned, and of course, with the silt due to the flood and dust and sand accumulation, lots of those statues had disappeared. And then the natives had started coming and building their houses on the road in the later periods, in the medieval periods and in the Islamic periods. And that is why lots of these statues had disappeared. I want to tell you something. The people, even in the 19th century, they used to live inside the temple. They had built houses inside the temples. Thanks to Auguste Mariette, the first head for the Department of Antiquities, who had bought these houses from the natives, and he started clearing the temples and preparing them to be visited.
Yes.
And that's why up till now, when you go to the Karnak village, you will find that some of the ram-headed statues are in front of the houses.
Yes.
In the Karnak village. So having a project like this, and this project was part of developing Luxor and converting Luxor into an open-air museum, which had started in the 90s, and it had stopped after the incidents of 2011. But I believe that this project was still in the back of the minds of the Egyptian administration, because it was one of the projects that were not completed yet. And I'm so glad that we're back into this project, and we had finished one of the most important and essential parts of this project, which is completing or joining both temples together by the Avenue of Sphinxes.
Yes, Mr. Kamel, so this avenue of the ram-headed sphinxes was also called, had several names in ancient Egyptian time, as it was named also after King Amun. Isn't
yes,
it?
it was called
the Amun Avenue.
The Amun's Avenue. As I said, the procession had, it was basically...
It was the avenue of celebrations.
The avenue of celebration.
And events.
Exactly. And of course, because Amun, he is, as they say, the star of the festival.
Yes.
The whole festival, the whole feast, it's supposed to be dedicated to Amun-Ra.
Yeah.
Amun-Ra, by all means, he was the king of gods. No other deity in ancient Egypt had received such care and such importance, since although the cult of Amun-Ra exists since the Old Kingdom.
Yes.
But starting from the 18th dynasty and after expelling the Hyksos out, it was something natural that the dynasty that liberated Egypt from the Hyksos, that came from Thebes, that their god would become the great god, the king of gods.
Yes.
Beside the priests of Amun had played a very strong role in this holy war, and that's from then the importance of Amun-Ra had started rising until the end of the ancient Egyptian period, and Amun-Ra had stayed to be the king of gods.
Yes, could you give us an idea, Mr. Kamel, about the design of the ram-headed sphinxes, how they are designed or made, and the material, also how many sphinxes are they? Around 1,000 sphinx?
Yeah, a little bit over 1,000.
Yes, 1,000.
And as a matter of fact, we have two different types of statues. We have the sphinxes statues.
And of course, the size, their size is not that big. As
no, it's not. It's not big at all.
Yes.
They actually start, as you can see, from the pylon of the temple of Luxor, the pylon of Ramses II, going all the way more than 1 kilometer, linking between both temples. And as a matter of fact, they meet with the Avenue of the Rams. The Avenue of the Rams, it's in front of the Karnak, because, as I said, the ram was the sacred animal of the god Amun-Ra. And of course, the extensions that happened to the Karnak had actually engulfed some of the...
So they symbolizes the
Amun-Ra, the ram-headed statues, yes. And the sphinxes avenue, they are representing King Nectanebbu I. And why did he choose the picture of the Sphinx? Of course, because the Sphinx is representing one of the great gods in ancient Egypt, the god Horus of the horizon. And of course, each king, according to the ancient Egyptian beliefs, while he was alive, he was Horus, living in a human body. So King Nectanebbu, who was a great builder, by the way, had represented himself in this divine form, linking himself to the god Amun-Ra.
Yes. Mr. Kamel, we are waiting, or Egypt is gearing up for the inauguration ceremony that's going to take place in Luxor for the ram-headed sphinxes, of course. What do we expect from this celebration? Is it going to be as great and very well organized like we have witnessed on the 3rd of April of the year 2021 when we all saw as Egypt organized the King's Golden Parade that were transferred, of course, from the Egyptian Museum to the also the Civilization Museum?
Well, honestly, I don't know, and I don't think anyone knows what had been prepared to show this celebration.
Magnificent,
exactly.
of course.
We should expect nothing less than what we saw before.
So Egypt is on its way always when organizing anything concerning the pharaohs to be a magnificent one and very well organized.
Yes, and I'm really thrilled with what's happening now, because we have to look at this with a wider angle, which is linking Egypt all the time to pleasant events. Believe me, this is better than any other paid advertising campaigns, because you are playing with the image of Egypt in the back of the mind of any person worldwide. Because the paid campaign, it's known that it's an advertising campaign, it's a paid campaign. But this, you are changing the minds of the viewers worldwide, removing any passive image about Egypt and replacing it with a very nice image, a very positive image. Any negative image, it's totally displaced and replaced by the positive image. As a matter of fact, I believe that this is a very smart policy, and it's way much better than advertising campaign. You have no idea the impact of the Golden Parade. How was it worldwide?
Yes.
That is why, unfortunately, sorry, I'll be back to that again. Unfortunately, it came in a time with the crisis of the COVID was in its peak. Now things are way better. So I hope that we would do a better marketing for this event on all the television stations and all the media, in all the media. I'm not talking only about television, I'm talking as well about internet, about different broadcasting platforms, which I'm sure it will be viewed by billions of people, and this will erase any negative image about Egypt to be replaced by this positive image. Now we are retrieving back our brand. Our brand, with all my due respect to our seaside resort, but this is not our brand. Our brand is this, the Karnak, Luxor, the pyramids, the Sphinx, Tutankhamun. We have a very or extremely old civilization, and it's a civilization that had added to human heritage, and we have to use that to retrieve back our glory in this industry. When the people think of Egypt, they think of the Tutankhamun mosque or the pyramid or the Sphinx. And I believe that we are retrieving back our brand in the travel industry, and I'm thrilled with this.
Yes. Also, Mr. Kamel, the Karnak temple and also the Luxor temple have been renovated, and again, I mean, the statues and the crafts inside the Karnak temple, for example, is back to its original colors, and it had been renovated.
Yes, they had removed the soot that was covering the walls of the temples at the moment, and they are retrieving back the colors in the Karnak temple. I believe that the first experiment they had done on this operation was in the temple of Esna and Dendra. And when they removed the soot and the colors appeared, you feel as if you're back in time thousands of years ago, and it's something beyond belief. Doing this in the Karnak had impressed lots of visitors, and it's going to impress lots of visitors. I'm talking about the temples of Dendra and Esna. These are small temples. The Karnak, it's the city of gods. The Karnak is built over more than 62 acres of land. You're talking about more than 250,000 square meters. So if you compare this to something like the Church of St. Peter in the Vatican, it looks like something very small in comparison to this. So this project, it's a huge project, and it's very ambitious, and I hope that it would be finished in a reasonable amount of time, so that we would have the chance to reopen the Karnak the way it was thousands of years ago. And this can be another celebration, by the way, and the whole world will be looking at it.
Yes, yes. So this is going to, of course, what happened, or the restoration that took place in the Karnak temple, is going to add a lot to this event, the inauguration of the ram-headed Sphinx's road.
Oh yes, by all means. Yes, the Karnak restoration work, the people need to see it. The people always ask, where did the colors go? How did it look like thousands of years ago? Was it that colorful? You know, all these questions. By restoring and showing at least part of it, I know it's not all finished, but you will be answering lots of questions that had been tackling the minds of every traveler who intend to come to Egypt or had visited Egypt.
Do you think, Mr. Kamel, that by restoring the Karnak temple and also bringing back the colors to its original colors is going to pave way for all tourists who have already visited the Karnak temple in previous years are going to come back again in order to see the colors? Because there's something new that they could see, isn't it?
Luxor had always been a destination for repeated travelers.
Yes.
Because people, when they come and they spend a week in Luxor, they actually never finish it.
Yes.
I remember when I was much younger, we used to spend in the Karnak a full day, because Karnak is not one temple. Many people think they say the temple of the Karnak. No.
And there's a lake there, over there.
Yes. The Karnak, it's a complex of temples. You have 3 mega temples, one for Amun-Ra, and one for Mut, and one for Khunsu. And there's a temple for Ptah over there, and other temples for other deities. So the Karnak, it's a huge religious complex. So when I tell you that we used to spend a full day, yes, from 8 o'clock till 3 in the Karnak, and still we couldn't finish it. The people, they cannot imagine the magnitude of the Karnak, but it's enough to tell you that the Karnak, to take that present shape that we know, it took 2,000 years.
Yes.
2,000 years. We had discovered buildings in this particular area dating back to early Middle Kingdom. I'm talking about 2000 BC. So you have a complex that was started in the year 2000 BC and finished in the year 300 BC.
Yes.
It's something beyond belief. And it shows all different, the architecture. You can go through the history of architecture in the ancient times, from the Middle Kingdom to New Kingdom to late periods to even the period of decline. And still you can trace all this. You can trace the history. You will find that each pharaoh who ascended the throne, he needed to add something to the Karnak. Even some of those kings were mentioned in the Bible, which doesn't happen often, like King Shashank, who had built a gate over there known as the Bubastide Gate. It was mentioned in the Bible, so that attracts some of the people who wants to relate history to the Bible, although it doesn't always work all the time, but they would say, I want to see that place. It always, each part of the Karnak will ring a certain bell in the back of his mind.
Yes, so Mr. Kamel, now despite the coronavirus, the tourism wheel or the tourists coming to Egypt never stopped. So what about the numbers of increasing the numbers of tourists that are going to come back or flow to Egypt after the ceremony of the inauguration of the ram-headed Sphinx Avenue?
Well, of course, this will attract lots of travelers, although we have to be prepared. And we have to be finding solutions to facilitate the visit of Egypt for the travelers. And let me tell you a problem that we are facing. In Europe, as you know, that anyone coming from Europe, he enters Egypt with a PCR test, and the Europeans have no problem. They come with a QR code so that the reader at the airport can read it. Unfortunately, in the United States, they don't issue the PCR tests with a QR code in all the states. We have to find a solution for this because America now is a big potential.
Yes.
All the Americans want to come to Egypt. I work in this market and I know what I'm talking about. The United States is a big potential at the moment, and all the Americans, they want to come. Unfortunately, over there, I don't know, maybe they're technologically a bit behind Europe, but we have to find a solution for this because lots and lots of Americans, and we've been trying for ages to make Egypt the #1 destination for the Americans. Don't forget, we are very far away from North America, and of course we are competing with the nearby destinations and Europe to the Americans. So this is a market that we need to facilitate the entry of the American travelers, and I believe that there will be big numbers coming from North America as well.
I thank you very much for coming and joining us today. Thank you for your valuable information. Thank you for your time, Mr. Ihab Kamel, the researcher and historian. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for following me in this segment. My name is Amal Mukhtar. I leave you with the rest of the Breakfast Show segments.